Welcome, welcome, welcome
Hey
to
man,
Epic
good to be
Lunch and
back,
Learn.
man. How are you?
Yeah. It's been a while, a couple days.
It has.
Yeah, this is the show where real estate meets real talk. So make sure you take your lunch break right now. Let's turn this into a master class. I'm Dante Royster, mortgage broker, author, and your guide through the mortgage maze. I'm here and joined with Vince.
Hey man, thanks for having me back. Apologize, needed a couple days there. I know you've been consistent, still popping in here, but I needed a couple days off. So I know you talked about a little bit of consistency over the last couple days as to how it's important in this industry. So
It's hey, we were talking yesterday about entrepreneurial, just being an entrepreneur. What does that mean? And I think it's so relevant in the real estate space. And one of the things is just having discipline and being committed to something and just being able to do it again and again. It's almost Groundhog Day,
yeah,
but over time, there's a formula to it that it does manifest and work out. Today's episode was going to we had another guest that was going to join us. Obviously, I don't think they're here, so if they do come in, we can definitely ask some questions. But it was about real estate. It was about veterans too. First and foremost, want to talk about veterans. So I wrote something down. Wanted to read this just so we can get going. I want the audience to imagine standing before a grand door, solid, strong, and waiting. On the other side lies stability, freedom, and the home you've always dreamed of. But doors like these don't open by accident, they require a key. For our veterans and service members, that key is the VA loan, a promise forged through service, sacrifice, and the gratitude of a nation. Before we dive in, let's pause to honor the men and women who've worn that uniform for us. If you're watching this right now, don't forget to like, comment, and share because today isn't just about mortgage in the market, it's about service, legacy, and opportunity. I wanted to share something personal today. My grandfather, Selwyn Wilson, was a Tuskegee Airman. These men didn't just fly, they soared against storms of adversity, proving that courage knows no color. They weren't just pilots, they were pioneers who cracked open the sky for generations to follow. Their story reshaped not only the military, but the very soul of this nation. And like many veterans of this time, my grandfather had access to the VA loan, born out of the 1944 GI Bill. It wasn't just a mortgage product, it was a lifeline, a bridge back into civilian life, a way to plant roots, raise families, and carve out futures. That's why today conversations matter so much. The VA loan isn't just about no down payment, competitive interest rates, or no PMI. It's a symbol, a recognition. It's our country saying, we see you, we honor you, and we want you to have the stability you've earned. So that was what I wrote today about my grandfather, the late and great Selwyn Wilson.
and I know you mentioned it too in the show. Your dad also followed in his footsteps with a military background.
Yeah, my both grandfathers on both sides of my family were military, and then my dad was in the army as well. So yeah, I have had kind of that. It's in the gene pool.
Yeah,
Um,
and it, it,
um,
it it kind of goes to obviously how you are, as you referenced your rigidness of, hey, it's every day, we're on the clock, we're doing this, right? But it also shows in your performance. But the other thing too is veterans loans perform in the marketplace. I know we talked about this in the very couple first episodes. At the end of the day, you're right. It is zero down. It is no mortgage insurance. But to the investors that buy those mortgages, they want them. There's a demand for them. And the reason being is that discipline comes across in the ability to maintain their payments.
Definitely. It was funny. I thought about talking about this, because of Soldier Field, right? And obviously
And
we
the
had the home
disaster that
opener.
happened on Monday,
Yes. I mean, we had the home opener. You had Jim Cornelius singing, the national anthem. You had the what is the F-35s or whatever
yep,
fighter
bombs away.
flights were
Absolutely.
going. Man,
Correct.
so I mean, the place was rocking. I was actually driving to the track. I was going to get my mile run in with my son, and but I got it blared on the radio, listening to the
Yeah.
planes, and I was like, man, that's awesome. That
Yeah,
is
it's all. I
awesome.
mean, I used to wind up going to home openers or whatever, and you would see that happen. But let's
Yeah,
talk about one thing. At the end of the day, the Bears dropped a bomb. But at the end of the day, the kid from Minnesota, think about it on his end and his journey. Grew up in LaGrange, played high school football in Illinois, opened up the season for his first rookie game with a win in his hometown of Soldier Field.
And
you couldn't write it any better.
Well, the first game that he ever attended,
ever played, correct, because he was injured last year.
Yeah, but the first game he ever attended was Chicago Bears versus the Minnesota Vikings when he was 4 years old. He actually went to my high school.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. So he went to Naz. I went to his draft party, Nazareth Academy in LaGrange Park. So I'm very familiar of the aura of J.J. McCarthy. And obviously, our paths have not crossed.
Yeah,
but
correct.
Obviously
we got a little bit of an age gap, right? And at the end of the day, I'm an Ohio State guy, so I don't follow the Google Blue. So sorry, you missed it.
Okay. Yeah, no, but it's a great story. I mean, obviously, and one of the things I noticed, obviously we're talking a little bit of sports, was just how, his leadership skills, even when he threw the pick six in the third quarter, which, a lot of people thought that probably,
that was the end of the game.
It was the end of the game. Yeah, that was what we needed. He went right to the sidelines. He was shaking everyone's hands, the offensive lineman. Hey, we're going to get it back, whatever he was saying. But, he just showed the poise of being a winner. He won in high school in Illinois. He won in Michigan, obviously. Yeah. And now here he is winning his first game in the NFL. So kudos.
He had that aha moment. I got this. Watch. Trust me. Let's go. Let's do this, right? And it didn't help that the Bears forgot to cover Jefferson.
No, hey, it was a lot of self-inflicted wounds. I mean, 12 penalties, you name it. But also too, one of the things that we talk about is you have to have a team. You have to have a team of support. In real estate, right? You want to have realtors supporting you, your loan officer supporting you. You want to develop this team, and look at what his team did. Even when things weren't going well, they still stuck with him. They still stayed on his side. Sometimes there's a lot of bickering that goes on.
Correct.
And, realtors mad at the loan officer, or the loan officer like trying to get information, and I'm like, hey, we're all supposed to be working together. I mean, there's a lot of this pointing fingers in our industry.
It is fun in our industry to deal with the pointing fingers, right? I mean,
it's crazy.
You have a much different personality than me when it comes to that. When that comes across for you, you deal with it the right way. Sometimes I deal with it the wrong way.
I bite my tongue. I turn the other cheek.
I can't do that, buddy.
But it's crazy though, because in my head I'm saying, well, what side are you on? We're supposed to be working together. Like,
there is no side; it's a team.
I know.
Right?
We're
at the end of the day, we're all here to get the ball across the goal line, or the loan closed and the wire sent. Right? I mean, that's what it's about.
100%. That's what it's about. We're all working for the common goal. The goal is for the seller to be able to sell their house. The buyer is supposed to buy the property, and sometimes there are hiccups that happen. It's still very much a manual manufacturing line. We are, step by step along the way.
It doesn't look like it with technology, but it is still 9 pieces in order to make the 10th piece work.
100%.
I mean, we got to start building the puzzle and putting it together. Here's piece 1, here's piece 2, and we got to get to 10. Right?
Exactly.
If we don't get the 10 pieces together, it falls apart.
At the end of the day, an underwriter, and hey, they're probably going to be losing their jobs, but until then, underwriters are still human beings, and sometimes they have questions. I just this morning, working on a file, I was just expecting walking in to get a clear to close, and the underwriter has a question. Oh, the MRI, minimum required investment. I don't think it's hidden. I was like, well, you can factor in tax expirations. Oh, I got to check with HUD.
What do you mean? Well, no, is common. This is common in Illinois. Yes. It may not be common in other states, but this is common in Illinois. We use those prorations to help you meet your down payment. It's actually an advantage for people buying a house in Illinois because the taxes are paid in arrears. But again, that's the whole right. I mean, correct. And we had a person on earlier this week to talk about reevaluating the assessments and different things. I did watch back a couple of the highlights to try and get a feel of what was going on. Since you gave me a couple of days off here, I do want to touch on one thing. Is Jerome Powell going to be your kryptonite, as you reference yourself as Superman during the week earlier this week?
Team Epic, Captain Epic here. I've always loved superheroes. I've, since a little kid, and, I'm still a kid at heart. I've always enjoyed superheroes. I've enjoyed, situations of, just the idea back in the 80s, right? I'll take you back to the 80s where it was so simplistic. It was good guy, bad guy. Bad guy gets ahead, and then the good guy prevails, knocks him out, and good guy wins. And
He-Man and
that's
Skeletor.
yes, and that's what it was. And it made everything so simplistic. But now we get shows even like Breaking Bad. Where there's so many layers to these to these stars, right? Is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Well, some things I don't like, but some things I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
We've really created this situation where even as a consumer, I'm confused. Who am I supposed to be rooting for?
Yeah. I mean, again, as a consumer, at the end of the day, you can talk to whoever you want in the mortgage business. You wind up doing business with people you like and trust.
Yes.
If you don't have that feeling, then that's not your right person to do business with. At the end of the day, that's the bottom line on business.
Yeah.
No, I know you got housekeeping things to do, play around with. Make sure you let the audience know about the newsletter, and I'll let you get started with that. Maybe we'll touch on the rates a little bit after you get the housekeeping stuff out of the way.
We'll do housekeeping at 11:30. We'll do housekeeping at 11:30. So yeah,
got it on a rigid timeline now, huh?
I'm starting to get this figured out. So we'll do housekeeping notes at 11:30. We'll go ahead and just continue the conversation about we've got the big meeting next week, September 17th. That's next Wednesday. Next Wednesday is the Fed meets
1:15.
Yep. Is that Eastern time? 1:15 Eastern.
Yeah, 1:15 Eastern.
Right. So, while we're actually in the show.
I'm sorry. It should be 2:15 Eastern. I apologize.
Okay. 2:15 Eastern, 1:15. So right when we're done with the show, we'll get the announcement. It'll be spread amongst and obviously we've been doing these, for about a month and a half now. So I'm hopefully, the little ripples that we're putting in the water are going to start spreading out. I want to know how many phone calls am I going to get, come Thursday morning on, hey, Dante, I saw the rates drop. What can you do for me? I want to know how many people have been listening to this conversation, how we've talked about federal funds rate and how that's just bank-to-bank lending and how HELOCs, credit cards, car loans, you'll see the adjustment in those, but it does not impact the mortgage rate directly. Indirectly it does, but we've already seen 10-month lows in interest rates right now. Correct. Now is the time to take advantage.
Now is the time. Absolutely right. I'm glad you went there. I mean, at the end of the day, if you are in the process of doing a real estate loan currently and you are not locked and you are going to close, whether it's a refi or a purchase, within the next 15 days or 20 days, you lock your loan before the meeting because the cut is already priced into the market. And if you pay attention and if you listen, now there's rumors of, is it going to be 50 or is it going to be 75? It's not going to be 50. It's not going to be 75. It's going to be 25 basis points, which could potentially, and if I'm wrong, great. And if the rates go lower, you know what? If they go lower than what you lock in, they're going to be lower in 6 months than they are today. And you could take advantage of the market then. So
100%.
Take what you have and lock it in.
Yeah, I mean, because what ends up happening is, reports or the consumer level or the market says, hey, I don't like, he only did 0.25%. They can change their mind. They can be, people are fickle and the market is fickle. So, I mean, we know what we know, which is today and now. Let's take advantage of it. One thing I wanted to talk about, if interest rates never drop below 6% again, how would we adapt?
We've already done it. I mean, people are buying houses that's plus 6% interest rates. It's just a cycle. It's all a cycle. Real estate's a cycle. Rates are a cycle. The economy is a cycle. Everything is in a cycle in the investment world or the housing world. It's a cycle.
Right.
I mean, we've said this over and over. So people move.
Right.
People,
so I mean,
life changes is what causes people to sell houses, not necessarily rates.
Correct. I love that. And it really, I was thinking about that. I was like, because we get so focused on, interest rate's going to drop and and it's like, it's kind of like Vegas a little bit. Like, okay, so what? I mean,
it is. It is like Vegas, right? Because when these rates come down, and I'm not saying they're going to come back down to where they are. we're probably going to sit somewhere around 5.75 come March or April of next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can get those rates today. They're going to cost you points and fees, and that's probably not the right financial move to pay money to borrow money. That's my take on that. We can always talk about that a little later. But what people are going to realize is they have so much equity built in their house that they're going to take that jump and say, I'm going to take that 150 or that $200,000 that I gained over the last 6 or 7 years, and I don't care. I want the money, and they're going to sell their current home. And that's what the Fed's looking to do. That's why they're going to try. We need activity in the marketplace. Without activity, it's a stagnant market.
Yeah, I mean, they said right now, just looking at the market, there's more sellers than buyers right now. There's actually more sellers than buyers.
I don't know about all of that because at the end of the day, there's a lot of investment firms that are also in those seller bucket on selling properties that aren't truly looking to buy another house.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is an inflated number. When I look at what the market is, to me, the market is families, individuals, not hedge funds that purchased 100 properties and now are selling them.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like there's this tug and pull, as far as to, talk about race to try to spur the market and make sure we get that next spurtability moment where consumers, jump out and like, oh, maybe I should be looking to buy right now. It's almost like a planted seed to try to permeate, more continuity and more buyers just constantly, every month coming out to look for homes. Because we just got a report about how in June we saw all these cancelizations of contracts.
Correct.
That was a recent article that I just saw, and I was like, man, what's leading people to pull out of the market? Is it just the properties? Some of these properties are inflated in value, and also they're not the nicest homes in the area. I mean, that's
correct,
the reality.
Right? You're getting on the block you want, but you're not getting the house you want. Or you're getting to the neighborhood, but you're not getting the house you want because there's no inventory. And the person selling that house is getting a premium because there is no inventory. There's an imbalance, right? I mean, at the end of the day, too, if you look at the numbers, builders, it's the greatest time to buy a new home from a builder because they're giving you tons and tons of discounts. But here's the problem. They're not in areas people want to live in. Right. You're further away from work. You're further away from the downtown. You're further away from the train stations and the things that you need.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, because, obviously a seller, in a nice neighborhood is going to try to take advantage of just what the neighborhood's offering. So even if they have the ugly duckling, they're selling their house and they're trying to really just sell it based on the area, the location, right? And so it's up to you to make that decision of like, yeah, but I'm going to buy it, but I still have to put like $70,000 into this property to make it, what I really want it to be. And you have to make those decisions. You got to make those choices.
And when you look at market time today, that market timing is showing that the consumer is saying, well, I'm going to wait for them to drop the price a little bit more. And that buyer is hanging, waiting to see if, instead of saying I need to aggressively go make my offer, they're saying I'm going to keep my eye on this house for the next 10, 15 days and see if they drop their price.
Yeah, no, definitely a situation like that. And that's why seller credits are going to have to be key. If a seller is truly interested and motivated, they're going to have to get off their price point. We have a situation right now. We have a buyer, and they had a family emergency kind of come up right during the purchase, just journey, the transaction, and so they had to tend to that, and they had to spend a couple, thousands of dollars, and so now they're short. They're short funds. And so it was a situation where I was like, I just was direct with the seller. We put a message out, hey, seller, just want to be transparent with you. Buyer had a family emergency. And, if you want to get this done, we need X amount of dollars. Let's just call it $6,000. And what do you want to do? And it's not in a huge desirable location. So, there's not all these buyers flocking over there. And the seller says, no, not at this time.
Yeah.
And I said, and we sit. Okay.
And we sit, right? The emotional piece of buying real estate or selling real estate comes into play there, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to get everybody involved in saying, hey, do you really want to go back to the market and redo this? Or do we really want to look at the market timing and everything else included and make the deal happen?
Yeah, it's not a relay race. It's not like, hey, runner one drops the baton and now runner two can pick it up from right where runner one dropped off at. You have to start at the beginning,
Yep.
application, potentially an appraisal, all these steps that have to take place. So, you talk tough, but you want to wait another 30, 45 days to do it all
Yep.
over again? What if something
Exactly.
else happens?
One of my real estate buddies years back, I'm still friends with him today, but when I first got started, he's an older guy. Make sure you stress to a seller, the first offer is always your best offer.
Mm.
And it always sticks with me in my head for people trying to sell a house. Don't look for if you get your price, move on, take it, and go forward. It's just one of those things. The first is always the best because the longer it sits, everyone's looking at it at the second time around. Same thing like, for those that use FHA financing, don't go looking at the house that just hit the market in today's market. Look at the house that's been on the market for 30 days. I say that because then you're not competing with conventional buyers that are looking at a house that's just 7 days on the market.
Yeah, they talked about, I'm looking here as far as the stat, homes are moving in about 30 to 60 days right now nationally once they're listed. So that's something that, and really the difference between how long they're on the marketplace is going to come down to condition and staging, pricing strategies, and just what season we're in, and so obviously, the Farmer's Almanac says we're going to have an early winter.
Yeah, and the season's starting to change here in Chicago already. I'm already wearing sweaters and shorts and flip-flops, so don't get me wrong. I'm already there.
Man, just being in the Midwest in general, I mean, it's like 1 minute last week I'm cold. I gotta put the long sleeve on, and then today I'm reading it's going to be 80 degrees by 4:00 this afternoon.
Yep.
I'm like, what?
Yep.
It's really hard to gauge.
You need the sweater in the morning and you need the t-shirt in the afternoon, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute, what am I got to do? Carry a change of clothes with me?
Man, it is something else. It is something else. We were going to talk today about, obviously real estate and something that, I really haven't dug a huge enough in. And that's why I was going to ask questions about was about land, acquisition of land, and the differences between, acquiring land and versus, real estate property. What's your thoughts on just buying land?
Yeah, I mean, I saw your outline today, and I'm really hoping the guest showed up because I'm really bad on this storyline of what we're talking about. But again, it's a different form of investment. The nice piece about land is it's lower taxes. There's no maintenance. There's no headaches of a tenant. So there are some advantages to it. I mean, I have a buddy down in Florida. He's doing a real estate transaction. They're buying land and they're scraping the land in order to resell it so they're doing some of the work of what a developer would do to sell the land to get a higher premium. So like those were the things I was trying to ask today's guest, but unfortunately he's not here. But yeah, I mean, again, it's an investment. At the end of the day, you can't make more of it, right? So supply and demand says that it goes up with time.
Yeah. Yeah, if you hit the right piece, to that point, I have my grandfather, my other grandfather, not the Tuskegee Airman, but my other one, David, grandfather David Royster. He bought he was a postman. He worked for the post office for 30 some odd years, and and this is back 60s and 70s, and so in the 70s he decided to go ahead and purchase a piece of land. And he bought it for about $7,500 down in, I want to say Fort Myers, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on Gator Lane. I'll never forget it, Gator Lane Circle or something like that. And so he and his goal, unfortunately, he passed away. But his goal was to go ahead and build on the land. He was going to build on the land once he was retired. And unfortunately, he never got to retirement. He passed away before retirement, but that was always his goal. So he bought this land down there. And so I, wandered down there because I wanted to see it. And at the time in the family, we were trying to keep it in the family, right? So, they were taking turns, brother and sister. So my dad, my uncle and my aunt, they were holding on to it, and they would take turns every other year where someone would pay the taxes. And then, money started getting tight, unfortunately, in the family. And, but I was like one of the only ones that actually went down there. I went down there. I wanted to see it. And they hadn't built on it yet. It was still a piece of land that hadn't been built on. And so I kind of looked at it, and, I went online, and it was like, okay, now it's worth $10,000.
Correct.
So, you could see the appreciation, and it was in like a little area, and this is, Cape Coral. If people are familiar, it wasn't actually Fort Myers, but it was like just north of Fort Myers, Bonita Beach. It's all in that realm.
Yeah.
And so long story short, unfortunately, I was like, can I have it? Can I have the land? And they wanted to sell it to me. Like I was like, man, I'm family.
Right.
I got ideas.
I got the dream. I got Grandpa's dream. Let's just keep it right.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, as people may know about family, it doesn't end up working well. Greed and how much can I get, and who's going to pay me back, and all that nonsense happened. So
Yeah.
I just ended up saying, well, screw it, and of course it went into foreclosure, and, someone, ended up buying the taxes and took it over. And so I wandered on and looked at it, and now it's worth about $120,000, that land.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that area got hit with the storms last year. So
Yep.
there's a lot of rebuilding in that area going on. But and to kind of just spin off of what you just said here with land, when you see it, you buy it because you can't make more of it. And it goes to the other thing of, and we could take this for like Illinois, like the areas of Plainfield or beyond Glendale Heights. Years ago, people said just drive to the next stop sign, and the minute you find a vacant lot, you buy the closest vacant lot to the stop sign, because at some point in time, the next stop sign is going to be somewhere further up north or down south, and there's going to be vacant land that needs to be purchased. You can't go wrong with buying land.
No, I mean, they're not making more of it, right?
Right, exactly correct. I mean, I tried to throw that little comment out there in the beginning. I think you caught it. Right, we can't make more of it. So,
and to that point, I was watching a YouTube show, and there was a guy based out of Chicago. I don't know his name, don't remember, but he, to the point of like, you don't make more land. He was actually looking at Africa as this country to, like, the Africa's growing. It, average population is like still under 25 years old. So they're going to need places eventually, within 10 years to live. And, it's got all this land there that you can build on. And so, buying land in Africa for, anywhere from 20,000 or less, and then building on it, and now being able to sell it for 400,000. You're getting all these like real estate developers all in these coasts of the African, continent. So, it's just one of those things where, they're looking at, kind of third world countries. They're looking at areas that are, not, industrialized, and they're seeing opportunities with land as an option to invest in. And it's, and that's why I thought this would be an interesting conversation, because, we're so in the, existing home or new construction.
Absolutely right. We don't. I mean, I don't pay attention to that. I know you dabble into little other things too. You do commercial and things of that nature. I mean, I kind of stay away from all those things. Like when we even had the architect on, like the whole thing of knocking down the current house but leaving the foundation the same, right? Well, the reason they're doing that is because there is no other land to build on. Like, correct. That's the whole point of it, right? Like, you just see how things evolve over the years.
Yeah, no, and it's just fascinating to me how that works. It's just different concepts. And one thing we touched upon yesterday, I was solo yesterday, and I was trying to hold down the fort. No, it was all good. One of the things that we talked about yesterday was an idea of growth and income, and having two different buckets. And so, income is just, just the money that you make on a regular basis that obviously goes and pays your bills, your rent, your mortgage, your car, and all that good stuff. But this growth bucket is that we should have. And I even talked about like an idea of 75, 15, and 10, where 75% of your money would go towards your income, 15% would go towards growth, and then 10% for just emergency funds. And it's really, the conversation is, what are we doing with that 15%? What are we, what asset are we buying? And, land is something, there's no right or wrong, but it is just an idea. Do you have a plan or a strategy? And I thought land is something interesting. It's not something I've always considered, but if you choose the right plot of land, and then all of a sudden you have the next shopping mall coming and they got to buy it from you, I mean, right. That's a payday.
That's a win. That's a windfall. That's a payday, right? And
correct.
It is an alternative investment. It's a different way of looking at it. And again, everyone has their own bucket as to how they want to fill it. Sometimes you think you're doing the right investment with that growth money, and you wind up having to pay taxes on it when you need to go sell it or whichever else it may be. So again, everything has its own little way of turning on it.
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's what, hopefully we'll get him back on the show when he has available. Maybe he's out sick. I know the flu bug is going around. The guest even yesterday was out. He said he was going to be able to make it, couldn't make it. So we hope to have him. But
let's be very clear. If Dante's ever out, the show will not go on. I will not be doing this solo. So let's make sure we're totally aware of that.
It's funny because I'm that guy. Knock on wood. I was perfect attendance like since third grade. Like that sick bug just goes right by. And and I don't want it, so I
was only perfect attendance if it was sports season and I had to be at school the day before in order to play the sports. Otherwise, I was taking my 21 days off a year.
I was just bored at home. I think in third, I was just bored. Like what? I couldn't even imagine in my mind, like what would I do when all my friends are at school and I'm here? That's boring. So I don't know. Maybe I'm quirky. Let's take care of those housekeeping notes now. We got a chance.
Minute marker 32. We're 2 minutes and 40 seconds off of this timeline, ladies and gentlemen. We're in trouble here.
All right. This episode today is sponsored by Epic Mortgage. Whether you're buying, refinancing, or investing, call Epic today. That's 708-905-5300. 708-905-5300. It's your dreams, your goals. Let's plan together. If you are looking for a blueprint, if you are looking for a map that can help you, definitely consider buying the Ultimate Mortgage Guide. It's right behind my shoulder here. The Ultimate Mortgage Guide is a step-by-step playbook for turning your mortgage into a wealth-building machine. Whether you're a buyer, seller, or an agent looking to deliver more value than Zillow ever could, this guide changes the game. So go ahead and look out on Amazon. Go to the Ultimate Mortgage Guide. Get your copy today. On Sunday, when the Bears are playing the Lions.
Oh, yeah, I was going to tease you about this one. But
man,
it is what it is. I know you referenced it, but you know what? You may be doing yourself a favor.
It was one of those things where I was looking at the schedule, and I'm being totally transparent. I was looking at the schedule, and I must have I crossed 2 because it's like, oh, the Bears are playing at 3.
No, you definitely did. It's on episode 16. You're like, I got this event. I'm perfect. Yep. I can do the event and go watch the terrible Bears after.
Yep. And lo and behold, the Bears play not this Sunday, but next Sunday at 3:00 against Dallas. I had the 2 days mixed up. And so, yes, the Bears are on at 12. But if you don't want to see the Bears, if you're mad at them, or if you're sobbing, you don't want to see it anymore, definitely come check me out. I will be with Attorney Prayer Legal Solutions. We're going to be doing a homebuyers brunch at Morgan Park United Methodist Church on Sunday at 1:00. That's at 11030 South Longwood Drive, Chicago, Illinois. If you want to buy a house, I will be in the building. I will explain the process. And, I have a phone, so every once in a while I may be looking down, just seeing what the score is, and hopefully they don't disappoint. But definitely it is the home buyers brunch. I'm supposed to be a DJ there, some music, some good food. It's going to be at the Morgan Park United Methodist Church, Sunday at 1:00. That's 11030 South Longwood Drive, Chicago, Illinois. I will be there. Go ahead.
I might want to say there may be a TV somewhere around during this seminar that someone want to be watching the Bears game that had to attend the seminar, but all good.
Hey, the phone, that's what the phone is for. So I
There's
will
an app for
definitely be
that,
checking.
right? Yeah.
Yes. After this show, after the Epic Lunch and Learn, make sure you check out the most recent Epic Spotlight interview with Brent Wilk. He's a seasoned realtor. Brent understands the deep trust his clients place into him and works relentlessly to exceed expectations. His story is a masterclass in professionalism and client care. It's the Brent Wilk interview. We had a great time. He actually came into the office. We did the interview here, so definitely check it out. It's worth a listen and a watch. And we do have some preferred listings. Let's go over our preferred listings. We
What's that
have
property in Georgia doing?
Georgia is gone, my friend.
It is.
Yes.
Wow. All
We
right.
start off.
We don't have to hear you start off with that one. All right. Let's go to the new ones.
We got 8228 South LaSalle, Chicago, Illinois. It's going for $250,000. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath. Contact Amico Pope 312-600-7673. We have a commercial storage that's still here, going for $165,000. That's 1413 East End, Chicago Heights. Contact Amico Pope 312-600-7673. We have 1645 Western Avenue, Chicago Heights. It's a commercial storefront going for $339,000. Contact Keith Terry 773-655-1360. We also have 6945 South Dorchester Avenue, Unit 2S, Chicago, Illinois. It's a 3-bed, 1-bath. Contact Evelyn Woods 773-718-9742. We also have 2030 East 72nd Place, Unit 3D, Chicago. It's a 2-bed, 1-bath going for $109,000. Contact Evelyn Woods 773-718-9742. And we do have 9049 South Parnell Avenue, Chicago, going for $279,980. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath. Contact Sebastian Kupiec at 773-430-8988. And then we have 1605 South 16th Avenue, Maywood, going for $250,000. It's a 4-bed, 1-bath. Contact Tamika Bishop 630-479-6352. And those are our preferred listings. If you have a listing, realtors, I know we have some realtors out there listening to us. Appreciate you. If you have a listing that needs some help with marketing, some some eyeballs, or if you want me to read it, definitely contact us. Whether it's Vince or myself, and then that way we can get you on our preferred listing and hopefully help you sell the house. Vince, want to give your information out?
All right, so everyone knows my name's Vince. You can contact me at my Epic email is vince@epic.mortgage, and my cell phone number anytime 708-359-8578. And if you do give us a listing, it will not be me giving out that address because my man over there has this down pat.
Appreciate that. I'm in the office at 708-905-5300. You can also email me at dante@epic.mortgage. And reminder, all those listings, preferred listings, are on my website at www.danteroyster.com, www.danteroyster.com. So you can check out all those and see it. Hopefully they're good for you. So if you're a customer out there wanting that, that'd be a route to go. We do have some questions. It looks like some questions were kind of peppered in with, wanting to know more about land.
Glad we getting our questions. I like the questions because we need some help here because Vincent and Dante are going to die off in the next 20 minutes. So let's get these questions going.
Jared said, can land investing work as a side hustle before going full time?
I mean, to me, that's a
no-brainer.
Tough question, right? Because you're going to need a lot of capital in order to really do it. So is it really a side hustle at that point?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on your price point, what you're looking into. I was kind of looking and I was doing a little research today on this, and let me kind of pull this up. Now, basically land to some degree is like it's treasure hunting. And I said, where do you look for land? And they were talking about counties like auctions. I was going to bring up like tax sales, foreclosures, estate sales. Heirs inherit land that they don't want. They'd rather have fast cash than, hold on to the dirt. Expired listings, lands that didn't sell, sit, stale. Owners may be open to creative deals. So you have to be a little bit, willing to, have these conversations and look for these opportunities. But yeah, I mean, anything that's really worth a grain or of salt that's going to, matter to me, you're going to have to go full time. I don't know. I mean, all the phone calls that you're going to have to make, it really depends on what type of job do you have. I guess if you're working remote, you know what I mean? Not underneath the boss's nose.
I mean, the other thing I think about when you just kind of ran through that, and this is more towards the Chicago market, trying to find a house that's for sale with a double lot.
Sure.
Right? Like, it's hard to come about, but that's where maybe you're going to profit the best with the land without having really that much capital. Because if it's 2 lots to 1 pin, you maybe can use the capital to divide the lot and sell the secondary lot. Again, you don't know if you want to live next to a construction site, but it may be the fastest way to obtain land using traditional financing.
Yeah, I think the key is also, you want to run numbers, see what similar parcels, have sold for. If your target is land, price below that might be a good signal, based on comps, similar to homes, right? If everything's, selling for, 350,000 and something, in the area is selling for 300, usually in an existing market, we know it probably needs some TLC.
Right.
But maybe in a land situation, it's like, okay, you got to do your research though, because you just want to make sure that you have opportunities. You also too, I'm just thinking in my head, you would want to, we're talking about networking ultimately. I mean, you want to maybe look at local wholesalers, land brokers. They might be able to help you, point you in the right direction. Potentially direct mail, might be a thing. Obviously there's a bunch of those like websites that you can log on to and see, home ownership. So there's, it's just a lot of communication. You want to probably get with like a real estate investing community a little bit in that regard. That'd probably go a long way to kind of figuring that out. I had another question here. What's the question people should be asking right now, ultimately? Oh, I wrote that down as a note that I thought would be good for us to start with.
So in terms of the steps of trying to start buying land,
or just not buying land, but just overall, what questions should people be like? What's kind of the overall arching question that people really should be thinking about right now?
I'm sorry, bud, I'm losing you on that one. Give me an example of what you're trying to get at.
So in my mind, it would be, like, how do I double my money?
Okay.
How do I make more money? We're battling so many things, right? Inflation. We're battling, a consolidation. It looks like the market is contracting a little bit from job opportunities, from, whole sorts of things, right? I don't see a lot of grants that were, readily available maybe last year. They're not as available. So what are things, let's get to the core of what are people searching for right now, in your opinion?
To me, in the immediate short term, everyone's looking for a safety just to make sure things don't fall apart. I mean, the numbers are reflecting that the consumer is having issues. Wherever that comes about, right? Everyone's wallet is getting a squeeze. And I think right now there's more of the fear of, well, what could happen or what's going to happen, which we've kind of addressed. Things will always happen, but you just have to protect yourself. And again, it's the same thing. It's cutting back, trying to figure out where you could save something. And I think that's where the consumer is at from that standpoint. From the growth avenue of the exact opposite of how do I make my money grow, the market has done so well over the last 4 or 5 years in the grand scheme of things, regardless of the dips that we've had, that this pace can't continue. So be careful on that growth strategy, because growth means some form of risk.
Yeah, it's only good to risk if you have it to lose.
Correct. Right.
If I go to Vegas and I got $100 and I'm willing to let it go because I have another $100 in my pocket, but you shouldn't be going with your life savings and saying I'm betting it all on black.
Yeah, I mean, like, as an example, my buddy called me up from Florida. He's approaching 50. He's like, I got X amount of dollars in this account. How do I do this? What do? I own some properties. I'm like, if you don't take any risk and you just get simple performance, you're going to double your money in 7 years. But if you're looking to take some risk, you could potentially lose something. And now instead of being 50, you're 55. And you're trying to plan for the next 10 years, not the first 2 or 3 of that 10-year plan.
Yeah. No, I love those. I mean, these are kind of like case scenarios of what to do. And we were talked about that a little bit yesterday. I had one. I got another one. I got a buddy. Probably has about $600,000, right? 45 years old, 600,000. In 401k stocks and all that good stuff with his job. He's got a comfortable job. Makes mid, $150,000. Wife makes, about $120,000. So combined income 270. And, it's one of those, got a house, 2 kids, all that good stuff. It's like, well, what do you do?
Right.
I mean, do you just stay the course? He's like, hey, what do you think about real estate investing, Dante? You think I should, jump into it? Might be an opportunity out there. And, to some degree, I'm a little reluctant on those. Like, if you just stay the course, unless you're telling me I want to be done in 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, you threw a dollar amount up there. I mean, my guy called me up with the same kind of questions. He's got kids. Both kids are coming into high school. He bought a commercial property that he made money on. And he's like, what do I do with all this? I said, well, collectively, you have over $1 million. Like, what risk do you really want to take if you can get a safe return? And in 6 or 7 years, you make 50% of your $1 million. And he was more looking at like, how can I split up my slices of the pie a little bit more to get a little more risk? And I'm like, you don't need to.
Right.
Why would you do it at this point? It doesn't make any sense.
It's social media. I mean, it's really, it's really just social media. It's one of those situations where, they get into seeing all these other people and they've done it a different way. And then they kind of feel like they're left out because it's viewed as being boring.
Yeah. You're so right to say that. I listen to CNBC all day long, but the CEO of Robinhood was on this morning. And Robinhood's they've had a great run financially this year, but it was kind of like, hey, I just started off as an app, and now all of a sudden you're allowed to have 10 Robinhood accounts as a brokerage account. You're allowed to have now an IRA. And is it a game, or is it truly the right way of doing things? And that's basically what it kind of comes down to. I don't have a Robinhood account. This isn't about Robinhood. This is about how everybody is getting involved, and without social media, there wouldn't be Robinhood.
Of course.
Right? There wouldn't have been all the hype about crypto and everything else that goes with it. And there's nothing wrong with those investment plans, nothing wrong with crypto, but it just turned into a game.
Yeah. It's tough because you feel like, I'll sit here and say this, kind of a devil's advocate, like you feel like some of these opportunities are not accessible. I don't know where the next Merrill Lynch is. Merrill Lynch is not knocking on my door. Morgan Stanley's not calling me up. The private wealth client is not, tattooed behind my name. So right. I feel, I'm not smart enough per se to know how to do it on my own, but I'm not getting tapped on my shoulder to get the knowledge. And so I need a platform. And that's where like a Robinhood, for example, becomes like this outlet of like, oh, wow. Or Reddit, gets these little group, factions together, and they feel like, yeah, let's do this, together. And so it's an interesting dynamic that we're in, because I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, I was talking about there's levels to everything. I was like, it's kind of like Candy Crush. I never even played Candy Crush, but I just know there's like 3,000 crazy levels. But, it's just like there's so many levels from an income standpoint, and each level allows you to do X amount of things that you can do.
Yeah. The 10 doors open at this level. Otherwise, I'm still sitting here at 2, and it's the stairway up that you have more opportunities. But that comes with more responsibilities and more capital in order to take on those opportunities. I mean, at the end of the day, the average person, let's just talk about it. The house is your main investment.
Correct.
To the average person, however you want to look at that, however you want to pull money from it, you want to pay your mortgage off. Either way, it's a forced savings account or it's a tax deferred retirement account, because if it's your primary residence and you go to sell it, it's tax free in terms of the gains.
Yeah.
It's a tough call.
It's a point where, the horse blinders have to kind of come on, we can't always be going to Facebook. You can go there for entertainment, laugh. I mean, this guy dressing up in a Bears costume, being sad, cracks me up. It made me laugh because I was like, you feel my pain.
That may be you pretty soon on this show.
You feel my pain. And why are we so, never mind. Don't even get me started going on that. But, it's one of those things where you kind of have to choose your path. You have to figure out what's best for you. And sometimes, you have to have that self-reflection of what are your goals? What are you trying to change? We only get one, right? We only get one life, to what we know. You only live once, YOLO. And so it's like, what's in it for you? You might not end up where Elon Musk is.
And that's okay. That's okay, right?
It's okay.
As long as you're taking some shots, right? I mean, and that's the whole thing. You've got to do something, though. You can't just sit there and let it go. You have to make decisions.
Yeah, the tool that was put into the system is called inflation. The inflation forces you. You can't just sit on your ass. It just inflation. I was talking about that yesterday. How inflation, $90,000 in 1998 was equivalent to $120,000 in 2018. That's inflation. It was a $30,000 increase. You felt like you had $90,000 in 2018 if you were making 120. Because it used to be back in the day, 100K. I'm going to make 100,000.
I got out of school. I'm making 100K. I'm good, man. I'm good. Right. Now it's like, wait a minute, 100K, 35% taxes when you're counting federal and the state of Illinois. Thank you. But then again, right, that's really only $6,500 a month.
Correct.
What am I doing?
Man, don't have two kids in private school.
Don't have two kids. Don't have a house, right? I mean, typical mortgage payment on that is going to be roughly $2,800.
Correct.
I mean, it doesn't work. And that's on one income. I mean, imagine a person that is just trying to make things work on the one income.
Correct. Yeah, it's really tough. So we have to raise the bar of our expectations of ourselves along with just the market is making you raise the bar anyway because of inflation. Like I didn't do the numbers and I'll have to do it. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. You, me, and Marissa will be on tomorrow. And, maybe we'll look at some of those numbers just from an income standpoint of what that means. One PDF, I'll bring it up tomorrow, shows, roughly you qualify for about 4 times how much money you make, in the state of Illinois. It fluctuates from state to state, but, roughly that's how much, you're going to qualify for. So, we're able to start doing numbers and to that point, when rates were lower, yes, that number could be lower, right? You could make $40,000. And
it's the whole point of why we got the price appreciation that we got in housing, why we created in the demand. Again, I don't want to knock this, but house values are inflated.
Correct.
Just plain and simple. However you want to look at it, it's inflated. And I always go to this. It's inflated because I can buy a house with only 5 or 3.5% down. But if I own a house, I have to leave 20% equity in the value of the home. That to me is the real market of what the true definition of inflation is for the housing market.
And you're talking about the refinance, obviously, max cash out.
I'm talking about refi cash out versus buying a property.
Yeah.
That gap of 15% is basically a safety net that if housing values drop, the bank isn't in trouble. And I think when rates come down here, you're going to see people exit, which would essentially be cashing in their chips and taking their money with the intention that values are going to come around somewhere down later and I can rebuy that house. To go into your point earlier, that's why there's more sellers currently in the marketplace than buyers, if that's truly true. I think it's more investment firms selling those properties and taking those gains.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, obviously, we're seeing some of the big boys come back into the marketplace and getting ready for this opportunity to snag all these deals. I saw the recent article about Chase coming now, offering a rate and term refi and stuff like that.
Oh, they're getting back in the mortgage business?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Thanks, Jamie. You decided to get that easy money, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Well, Wells is out. We'll see if they come back.
Yeah.
See if Wells Fargo comes back.
yeah. But what's interesting to me is and to that point is they come in and out of the market, just to take advantage of a situation that bad news is good news in our space, right? So obviously you're saying, hey, um, instability right now, jobs aren't growing, right? We're having corrections. It's like a million job correction
Yeah,
yesterday.
I'm not all big on the numbers. I mean, granted, there's unemployment, there's layoffs coming, and there is that too. But there's also no wage growth, and that's the scary part, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's what it boils down to. It. I mean, in the real big scheme of things, you're not buying a house if you're making $20 an hour in today's market.
Correct.
Right. So, for us, that person can go still buy a TV, and that could be the consumer, but half the population is not our customer because they're renters. And yes, it's about changing that renter into a homeowner. But and just in typical, you said 4 times your income for a house. Keep in mind that this is not private party. The average requirement for obtaining an apartment is income 3 times the amount of rent.
Mm.
A 2-bedroom apartment in Illinois, or let's just call it Chicago, you're probably $1,900 to $2,200, and that's not anything fancy.
So 22 times 3 is
That's
66.
a $100,000 job just to rent an apartment.
Yeah, what is that? 6,600.
6,600. We use $100,000, 35% in taxes. It's essentially the same thing.
Right. 79,000 just to rent a house. Gross.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the struggle, right? Like, you go to buy a house, you're going to be higher than 22. You're going to be more like 26, 27 at a minimum.
Right. So they'll allow you to buy the house. You can buy the house, or it's just it's interesting. And it makes it hard. It makes it a hard situation. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it?
And the new first-time home buyers are still going to be in a pinch even when rates come down. You may have the income and everything, but the price points are still going to be there. Right. Because that baby boomer is going to be looking to sell that current house and downsize.
Correct. Yeah, he doesn't want to go lower on his value of the house.
He's going to be stubborn. I made my money. It is what it is. Come get it.
Correct. And right now, with the number one population being millennials, second population is Gen Z, the demand is still going to be high.
Right.
And so now all you're doing is bringing more people back on.
Correct. Right. I mean, we had the title company guy that was on talking about they want everything. The millennial wants the house with everything. They don't want to start at the starter home. Well, that means they're going to go after that baby boomer who's selling that 3-bedroom house.
Correct.
So,
I bumped into a lady friend of mine who actually, and this, and I don't know if this is going to be starting, where they are bringing together. It's almost like, 3 people plus a mom, all collaborating in these houses, trying to section everything off where everyone has their own space. The only community location is the kitchen. Right. That's everyone has to congregate in the kitchen, but everyone's got their own separate bathrooms and stuff like that. I mean, you're going to start to see, installations if you have the space to maybe, tack on roommates.
Yeah. I mean, it's called co-living, but we redefined it as roommates to what it truly is. But that's exactly what it is, right? I mean, it's truly what it is. I mean, there's even apartments in the city that have started that. It's a 4-bedroom apartment, and you wind up having your own bathroom bedroom, but everyone shares a common room.
Right. And you just get on a list. I mean, it's not even like it's 4 of your buddies. It's just like, hey, it's 4 people.
No, there's strangers living together in that situation. Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's not, makes you feel like you're back in a college dorm.
Yeah. My brother, has a co-living situation. He's living with a random girl, out in California. And it's just a situation.
He's in that crazy high price housing market too, right?
Correct.
Like,
correct.
Like everybody does what they need to do on doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he disclosed it, gentlemen, ladies, and that is not Dante making the jokes. That is his twin brother.
But it's just one of those situations where, at the end of the day, this is just going to become more common.
Yeah. It's just the way housing's going to evolve. Again, that money that people make when they sell their home is going to be recycled into the marketplace somehow.
Correct.
We just don't know where that somehow is. And what I mean by that is everyone's sitting on a ton of equity.
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
They're sitting on tons of credit card bills, but they're also sitting on a ton of equity.
Yeah, I mean, I got some ideas, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. But just even my personal situation on just multiple houses and how to work them and stuff like that. But converting, since housing may be at a premium, being able to convert something into a rental seems like a more favorable approach than to sell it and lose it. I mean, the potential of just keeping it and allowing the appreciation to continue. I mean, it might be a thing.
That is definitely an option, but I mean, we'll probably wind up having a show to follow up on this, and I'll just play the other side of that. Why not take the profit and start over?
Well, right, and so yeah, let's table that for tomorrow, and let's kind of go with those examples, because I know what you're talking about with the 10,000, 10%, and 100,000, 10%. There's a big difference, and maybe relocating, because we talked about that one time the other day with my daughter went to a birthday party, and I was looking up the house, and I was like, wow, how much equity they have. What should they do? Should they stay? Should they go? So let's talk about that tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow, Vince, myself, and Marissa. So we'll come together and finish out this week. Appreciate everyone listening today. 708-905-5300. Vince, how do they get a hold of you?
You guys know 708-359-8578. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'll be back with Dante tomorrow, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Have an epic day.
You too, man. Take care, buddy.
Bye.